The fluorescent lights of the HR office hummed, a sterile sound that matched the expression on my boss Richard's face. At 44, I'd given 15 years to Catalyst Creative, building their digital advertising department from nothing. I'd poured my life into that Denver office. Now, Richard slid a manila folder across the polished table. "Marcus," he said, his voice void of warmth, "we're letting you go. It's an issue of culture fit. You're just not a team player." The words hung in the air, a stunningly absurd epitaph for a career I'd built on collaboration. My team, what would happen to them? The betrayal felt like a physical blow, cold and sharp. They had no idea what was coming. I walked out of Catalyst Creative in a daze, my keycard already dead. The Denver skyline swam before my eyes. 15 years, gone. My first move wasn't to call my wife. It was a single text to my 3 key people. The Oxbow, 6 p.m. urgent. They were there. Lena, our lead developer, a quiet genius who could build digital empires from scratch. Javier, the fiery young graphic designer whose art was the soul of our campaigns. And Sarah, the senior account manager, the one who knew every client's kids, names, and kept millions in business from walking. They saw the look on my face and didn't need an explanation. Richard finally did it, Lena stated, her voice cold steel. Javier slammed his fist lightly on the table. "That snake. He's been taking credit for our work for years." I just nodded, the betrayal still a raw wound. Sarah leaned in, her gaze unwavering. "Forget him, Marcus. He was never the team player. You were. So what's next? Because we're not staying there without you. Wherever you go, we go." Sarah's words hung in the air, a lifeline thrown into the wreckage of my career. I looked at the 3 of them, Lena's fierce intelligence, Javier's passionate creativity, Sarah's unshakable poise. They weren't just my team, they were my professional family. The thought of them working for Richard, of him taking credit for Lena's code, or passing off Javier's designs as his own, it was unthinkable. "He'll gut the department," Lena said, her voice flat. "He never understood the work, he only understood the praise it got him." She was right. Richard was a master of perception, a ghost in the machine who only materialized for the victory lap. He'd climbed the ladder at Catalyst, not on skill, but on his uncanny ability to be in the right photo at the right time, shaking the right hand. My team did the work. I managed the work. Richard took the credit. It was the unspoken arrangement that had festered for years. It was the Nordic automotive pitch, wasn't it? Javier's eyes were narrowed in recollection. "That's when he really started gunning for you." I winced. The Nordic automotive account. It was the biggest win in Catalyst history. A $2 million a year behemoth. Richard had insisted on leading the final presentation. He'd memorized my slides, my talking points. But when the client's CTO started asking technical questions about platform integration, Richard froze. He'd stared, blank-faced, a deer in the headlights of a multi-million-dollar disaster. I had to step in, calmly breaking down the architecture Lena had built, salvaging the entire deal from the brink of collapse. In the celebratory photos, Richard's arm was draped over my shoulder, a triumphant grin plastered on his face. He'd told the partners, Soup 8 navigated the tough questions. I let it go. For the team. For the win. It was a mistake. I see that now. I showed him that I was essential, and for a man like Richard, essential is the same as threatening. Sarah snapped her fingers, her expression turning sharp. This isn't about the past. It's about aura health. Of course, aura health. The $10 million whale we'd been tracking for 6 months. The initial pitch was in 2 weeks. It was my baby. I'd built the entire strategy. Richard knew he couldn't present it himself, and he couldn't risk me being the hero again. So he fired me. Not a team player wasn't a reason. It was a preemptive strike. He was clearing the board. The betrayal crystallized into a cold, hard certainty. He wasn't just firing a subordinate. He was eliminating his only real competition. "He thinks he's secured the win," I said, my voice low and dangerous. A fire I hadn't felt in years was kindling in my gut. "He thinks with me gone, Aura Health is his." I looked at the faces of my team, my real team. I saw their anger, their loyalty, their readiness. "Richard made one critical error," I said, a slow smile spreading across my face. "He fired his star player, but he let the rest of the championship team walk right out the door." "We don't just walk out," Sarah said, her voice dropping to a conspiratorial whisper. "We extract the entire department. Every coder, every analyst, every account exec who knows you're the reason they have a job." Lena's lips curved into a rare, sharp smile. "A surgical strike. He fires the general, he loses the entire army." The plan was audacious, bordering on insane. And it was perfect. We spent the next hour sketching it out on a cocktail napkin. The logistics were a nightmare. We needed a new company, a new name, a new bank account, and we needed it all by morning. I spent half my savings that night on my phone, paying rush fees to a legal service to incorporate Apex Digital. The name felt right. We weren't just a catalyst for others' success. We were the peak. The next morning, the air in my home office crackled with a nervous energy. At 8:55 a.m., Sarah, Lena, and Javier were on a conference call with me. We ran through the list one last time. 12 names, our entire high-performance team. "They're all waiting for the signal," Sarah confirmed, her voice tight. I briefed the account managers. They know what's at stake. They're in. "Javier?" I asked. "My designers are ready to walk," he said, a defiant edge to his voice. "They're tired of their best work ending up in Richard's portfolio." "Lena?" "My devs trust you, Marcus. They know Richard couldn't tell a Python script from a pasta recipe. They're ready." My heart was pounding against my ribs. This was it. I looked at the clock on my computer screen, 8:59 a.m. "All right," I said, my voice steady despite the tremor in my hands. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, send." A chorus of clicks echoed through my speakers. 12 resignation emails hit Richard's inbox at the exact same moment. Each one was identical, brutally simple. "I resign, effective immediately." No explanation. No 2 weeks notice. Just a digital guillotine. For a full minute there was absolute silence on our call. Then, Javier let out a low whistle. "The bomb has been dropped." Less than 30 minutes later, my phone buzzed. It was an unknown number. I answered, putting it on speaker. A panicked voice, one I recognized as a junior HR coordinator from Catalyst, almost shrieked into the phone. "Marcus? Oh my God, Marcus, what is going on? He's just staring at his screen. The entire department is gone. The lights are off. He's canceling meetings. He's yelling at IT to lock accounts. It's complete chaos." I hung up and relayed the message. A grim satisfaction settled over our group. Step 1 was complete. That afternoon, we all met at a short-term rental office I'd secured with a credit card. It was cramped, smelled of stale coffee, and the furniture was mismatched. But it was ours. 12 of us, the best digital advertising team in Denver, stood shoulder to shoulder. The mood wasn't celebratory. It was the focused calm. Before a battle, we had just burned the ships. I stood before them, my team, my new partners. "Welcome to Apex Digital," I said, my voice resonating in the small room. "Catalyst Creative thinks they have the Aura Health pitch locked down. They have my old strategy notes, but they don't have the people who can execute it. They don't have the talent. They don't have you." I looked at each of their faces. They were scared, but they were also electrified. "Richard took my job," I said, leaning forward, my voice dropping to a low growl. "Now, we're going to take his future." The echo of my own voice faded, replaced by the heavy silence of 12 people, realizing the sheer cliff face we were about to climb. There were no cheers, no high fives. Just a series of slow, determined nods. This wasn't a party. It was a declaration of war, and the room felt like a command tent on the eve of battle. Sarah, ever the pragmatist, broke the quiet. "Okay, Marcus, I love the fire. But how do we take his future when Aura Health doesn't even know we exist? We're not on the pitch list. The meeting is in 13 days. The reality of her words landed like a lead weight. "We were a ghost company with a P.O. box and a dream," Lena added to it, her arms crossed. "And we're working on personal laptops connected to a public Wi-Fi network. Catalyst has secure servers, enterprise software licenses, a render farm. We have a credit card and a stack of napkins. We can't build a $10 million pitch on this." She was right. The scale of our disadvantage was staggering. Richard had an army's arsenal. We had sharpened sticks. I saw a flicker of doubt in some of the younger team members' eyes. The adrenaline was wearing off, replaced by the cold, stark fear of the unknown. This was the moment it could all fall apart. Before the fear could take root, I stepped forward. "Lena, you have a budget. Whatever you need. Cloud servers, software, security. Get it. No questions asked. We'll build our foundation today." I turned to Sarah. "You're right. We're not on the list. So our first pitch isn't to Aura Health. It's to the person who gets us on that list. Get me everything you have on Elizabeth Vance, their CMO. Her background, her previous campaigns, what she eats for breakfast. I'm getting a meeting." A new energy began to hum in the room. The energy of a puzzle. A problem to be solved. Javier was already sketching on a notepad, a new logo taking shape. Then, a sharp knock on the door. We all froze. A courier stood in the doorway, holding a crisp legal envelope. "For Marcus Thorne," he said flatly. I signed for it, my stomach tightening. I knew who it was from before I saw the Catalyst creative letterhead. I tore it open and read it aloud, my voice even. It was a cease and desist. It accused me of corporate espionage, of poaching employees in violation of my contract, and most importantly, of stealing intellectual property, namely the entire Aura Health strategy. It threatened an immediate injunction to stop Apex Digital from operating. Silence. The team stared at me, their faces pale. This was Richard's real counterattack. Not panic, but power. The full legal weight of a multi-million-dollar corporation brought down on our shoestring operation. I finished reading, folded the letter, and let it drop to the floor. "He's terrified," I said, a slow, cold smile spreading across my face. "He's not trying to beat us. He's trying to stop us from ever getting into the room." The fear in the room was a tangible thing, thick and suffocating. I looked at their faces, these brilliant people who had staked their careers on me, and saw the legal jargon of the cease and desist letter doing its poisonous work. It was designed to paralyze us with fear, to make us scatter before we could even take the field. "He's not terrified," Javier muttered, shaking his head. "He's got an army of corporate lawyers. We've got a rented office and a P.O. box." I picked the letter up from the floor, holding it between two fingers as if it were contaminated. "Javier, this isn't a legal document. This is a confession." I let that hang in the air for a moment. Richard is admitting, in writing, that without my so-called stolen intellectual property, he has nothing of value to present to Aura Health. He's telling the world he's an empty suit. This letter isn't for a judge, it's for us. It's a scare tactic. I ripped the letter in half, then in half again, and let the pieces flutter into the trash bin. The sound was surprisingly loud in the tense quiet. "His accusation is that we stole his strategy," I continued, my voice low and intense. "Fine. We won't use it. We'll do better." Lena stared at me, her brow furrowed. "Better? Marcus, you spent 6 months on that strategy. It was perfect. We have less than 2 weeks. "No," I corrected her. "Mike has spent 6 months on it. Now, Aura Health has the combined brainpower of all 12 of us, fully focused, with no corporate bureaucracy to slow us down." Richard has my old notes, and a team of strangers who don't understand them. Who do you think is going to build the better mousetrap?" I saw the shift in her eyes. The doubt was replaced by the familiar glint of a challenge. She nodded slowly. "Give me 48 hours. I can have a prototype for a new user engagement platform that'll make the old one look like a flip phone." "Javier," I said, turning to him, "I want a new visual identity for this pitch. Something bold. Something that screams, the future is here. Forget Catalyst's stale corporate blue. I want fire." Javier's posture straightened, a grin spreading across his face. "Oh, I can do fire." The energy in the room transformed. Fear was replaced by focus. A frantic, creative storm began to swirl, as developers huddled with designers and account managers started frantically researching market data. We weren't just a company anymore. We were a commando unit, deep behind enemy lines, building our weapon on the fly. For the next 2 days, we didn't sleep. We lived on pizza and caffeine, the cramped office becoming a whirlwind of whiteboards, code, and sketches. The new concept began to emerge, leaner, smarter, and more aggressive than anything I'd conceived of at Catalyst. It was ours. Every line of code, every pixel, every word belonged to Apex Digital. On the third morning, Sarah cornered me, looking exhausted but triumphant. She held up her tablet. "Elizabeth Vance," she said. "Aura Health CMO. I have our way in." I leaned in. The screen showed a profile of a woman in her late 40s with a sharp, intelligent gaze. "She's tough," Sarah warned. "Came up through the tech side, not marketing. Hates buzzwords. Hates schmoozing. Her LinkedIn profile literally says, 'Don't pitch me. Show me results.' So a cold email is out of the question," I said, my heart sinking slightly. "Completely," Sarah confirmed. But I dug deeper. She sits on the board of a small Denver nonprofit called Code Forward. They run a coding boot camp for at-risk high school students. Sarah zoomed in on a photo from a recent Code Forward fundraising gala. Elizabeth Vance was front and center, smiling genuinely. It's her passion project. According to their website, they're trying to build a new online portal to connect their graduates with local tech internships, but they've been stuck for months. They don't have the funds or the expertise. A slow, audacious idea began to form in my mind. It was a massive gamble. "Lena." I called out. Her head popped up from behind a monitor. "That engagement platform you're building, how modular is it?" "Completely," she said. "I can reskin and repurpose the core framework for just about anything." "Why?" I looked from Lena to Sarah, the plan solidifying. "We're not going to pitch Aura Health." The room went silent. Everyone stared at me. "We're going to pitch Code Forward," I announced. "We're going to build their internship portal. For free." Javier looked at me like I'd lost my mind. "Marcus, we have 9 days to win a $10 million contract, and you want us to do pro bono work for a charity?" "Exactly," I said. Elizabeth Vance said, "Show me results." What better way to show her what we can do than to solve a problem she deeply cares about? We're not just going to tell her we're a great team, we're going to prove it. We'll bypass the corporate gatekeepers and show our work directly to the final boss. The sheer audacity of it hung in the air. It was a Trojan horse strategy. We weren't asking for a meeting, we were delivering a gift. I sat down at my laptop and began to type. It was the most important email of my life. It wasn't addressed to Elizabeth Vance, CMO of Aura Health. It was addressed to Elizabeth Vance, board member of Code Forward. The subject line was simple: a gift for Code Forward. The email was short. I introduced Apex Digital as a new Denver-based team of developers and designers. I mentioned we were inspired by their mission and wanted to help. I told her we had built a fully functional prototype of the internship portal they needed. No strings attached. All we asked for was 20 minutes of her time for a demonstration. I attached a single stunning mock-up Javier had created in less than an hour. I hovered my cursor over the send button. My entire team gathered behind me, holding their breath. This was it, Our one shot. If she ignored it, we were dead in the water. "Richard is playing checkers," I whispered. "Let's show her how we play chess." I clicked send. The email vanished into the ether. We all just stood there, staring at the screen in complete silence, waiting for a sign that our desperate, brilliant, insane gambit had worked. The seconds stretched into an eternity. My heart hammered against my ribs. Nobody breathed. An hour passed, marked only by the hum of the servers Lena had brought online. Then, too, Javier paced a trench in the cheap carpet. Maybe she deleted it, thought it was spam. "She didn't," I said, my voice calmer than I felt. "A woman like that doesn't ignore a direct solution to a problem she cares about." But even I was starting to feel the cold dread creeping in. We had bet everything on this one. Unorthodox move. At 10:17 p.m., a single sharp 5 echoed from my laptop. Every head in the room snapped towards the screen. The sender, Elizabeth Vance. The subject, a gift for Code Forward. My hand trembled as I clicked it open. The email was 5 words long. "Tomorrow, 10 a.m., my office." Beneath it, an address for Aura Health's downtown headquarters. Javier let out a shaky breath. Sarah closed her eyes in relief. We had made it through the gate. There was no celebration. We had less than 12 hours. The night was a blur of frantic, focused work. We didn't just polish the demo. We pressure tested it, trying to break it from every conceivable angle. Lena and her developers coded with a manic intensity, while Javier refined every visual element until it was flawless. We were running on fumes and pure will. The next morning, Lena and I walked into the Aura Health lobby. It was a world of cool glass and brushed steel, a universe away from our cramped rental office. We looked the part, dressed in our best, but I felt like an imposter. Elizabeth Vance's office was on the top floor, with a panoramic view of the Rocky Mountains. She wasn't behind her desk. She was standing by the window, and she didn't turn when we entered. "You have 20 minutes, she said, her voice crisp, without looking at us. "Begin." No handshake, no small talk, just a command. I set up my laptop on her conference table as Lena stood by, ready for the technical deep dive. I launched the presentation. "Ms. Vance," I began, "we believe great work speaks for itself. This is the internship portal for Code Forward." For the next 15 minutes, we didn't pitch. We demonstrated. We showed her the seamless sign-up for students, the intuitive dashboard for local companies to post opportunities, the automated matching algorithm. Lena fielded 2 incredibly technical questions from her about data security and scalability, with an ease that made me proud. Elizabeth watched, her expression unreadable, her arms crossed. She didn't offer a single word of praise. When we finished, she was silent for a long moment, just staring at the screen. Finally, she turned from the window to face us, her eyes drilling into me. "This is a very impressive and very expensive gift," she said, her voice flat. "I don't believe in gifts, so I'll ask again, why?" This was the moment. The entire future of Apex Digital rested on my answer. "Because you're right," I said, meeting her gaze. "It's not a gift, it's an audition. My entire team just left a major agency to build something for ourselves. We believe we're the best in the city, but we have no clients and no reputation. We knew we couldn't get on the approved pitch list for a company like Aura Health, so we found a different way to show you our work." She raised an eyebrow. "By poaching the nonprofit I support?" "By solving a problem we knew you cared about," I corrected gently. "We're not here to talk, we're here to build." A flicker of something, not a smile, but a glint of respect, appeared in her eyes. She walked over to the table and tapped my laptop screen. "Funny timing," she said, her tone shifting. "I had a preliminary meeting this morning with Catalyst Creative. They were presenting their grand strategy for Aura Health. My blood ran cold. They talked for 45 minutes, she continued, a faint note of amusement in her voice. They showed me beautiful slides, filled with buzzwords, synergy, paradigm shift. Then I asked their new department head, a man named Richard, a simple question about user data integration. He froze. He couldn't answer. He couldn't even fake it. He had a script, and the moment we went off script, the entire presentation fell apart. Natural justice. It wasn't a thunderous lightning strike. It was the quiet, humiliating implosion of a man who had no substance. Richard had finally been exposed, not by me, but by his own incompetence. Elizabeth looked from me to Lena, a calculated expression on her face. An hour ago, I received an email from Richard. He's formally withdrawing Catalyst Creative from the pitch, citing an unexpected and total departmental restructuring. He had no one left who could actually do the work. She let the implications of that hang in the air. Then, she smiled. It was the first genuine smile we'd seen, and it was dazzling. The pitch is next Tuesday. That slot is now yours. Lena and I just stood there, speechless. The air in Elizabeth Vance's office seemed to crackle. "Don't waste it," she added, a hint of challenge in her tone. We walked out of the Aura Health headquarters in a stunned silence, the city of Denver sprawling beneath us. We didn't speak until we were back in the elevator, the doors sliding shut and sealing us in our own private world. Lena let out a breath she seemed to have been holding for hours. A wide, exhausted grin spread across her face. "Holy crap, Marcus," she whispered. "We did it." Walking back into our cramped rental office felt like returning to a command center after a successful mission. 10 pairs of eyes, bloodshot from lack of sleep, snapped up to us. The room was thick, with the smell of stale coffee and anxiety. Javier was the first to speak, his voice tight. "So, are we packing up or—" I couldn't stop the smile from spreading across my face. I looked at Lena, and she just nodded. "Get the whiteboards ready," I announced, my voice ringing with a victory I could finally taste. Apex Digital is officially pitching Aura Health next Tuesday. The explosion of sound was deafening. Cheers, shouts, a few people literally jumping out of their chairs. Sarah hugged me so hard I thought my ribs would crack. Javier let out a triumphant yell and started sketching a victory graphic on a napkin. For 5 glorious minutes, it was pure, unadulterated chaos. This wasn't just about a potential contract. It was validation. It was the moment we proved Richard wrong. He had called me, not a team player, and in response, my team had moved mountains for me. I let them celebrate, soaking in the pure joy of it. This was our moral victory. But then I held up a hand, and the room slowly quieted. They were looking at me, energized and ready. "This is incredible," I said, my voice filled with genuine emotion. "But this was just getting us into the ring. Now we have to win the title fight." Richard failed because he had a script and no substance. We have 6 days to build a presentation that is pure substance. We have to be 10 times better than Catalyst ever was. No sleep. No excuses. We have a $10 million future to build. A new, more serious energy filled the room. The party was over. The real work had just begun. Has anyone else ever been called out for not being a team player when the real problem was bad management? I want to hear your story in the comments.